This is the Cannabis Advocate Podcast. This is the podcast that advocates for the cannabis industry. We discuss common challenges businesses face regarding legislation, regulation, monetization, and cultural acceptance. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, cannabis professional. This is Pat Helmers, and this is the podcast that advocates for the cannabis and hemp industry. You're in the business and looking for advice and a community of like-minded entrepreneurs. You're in the right place. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, before I start, I'd just like to take a pause and to thank you. This fall, it's been heartwarming to meet friends and listeners who love this podcast. I'm so grateful for your support and to know for certain that the advocacy I do here is making a positive impact on the industry. And more important, a positive impact on people's lives. Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing. Now, did you know that hemp is cannabis? Genetically the same, but with less THC, right? CBD comes from hemp. But that's just the start. Hemp can be used for construction materials, insulation, textiles, oils, plastics, and much, much more. Today, we meet Jarett Burke from Kifcure. Jarett walks us through the parts of the hemp plant and explains the products that can be made from it. I believe that hemp has a larger addressable market than the cannabis market. In this episode, we talk about the opportunities for farmers and manufacturers, and we discuss the possibilities that industrial hemp brings to market. But before we do that, make sure and subscribe to the podcast and follow the podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and myself on LinkedIn. You can find links in the show notes. And so, with no further ado, let's go to Kifcure. This is our second opportunity. Take two. Today we're at Kifcure in Elburn, Illinois, and our guest is Jarett Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I appreciate you having me on the podcast here. My name is Jarett Burke, CEO of Kifcure. We are a total hemp solutions company here located on Maple Park, Illinois, which is kind of sandwiched in between DeKalb and St. Charles, Illinois.
I've known you guys for quite some time. Kifcure makes CBD products, and you've been very invested in the hemp space. In fact, you've grown hemp here on the property, and we're going to get more into that later on. But the main reason why I thought it'd be great to have you here on the podcast is because 2 weeks ago you had some farmers here, and you hosted a panel. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Great questions.
Appreciate it.
And it talked all about the opportunities that's in hemp. I don't talk about hemp a lot on this podcast, although I have in the past. Since you're an expert, I thought you might want... You believe in hemp, don't you?
Yes. I've believed in hemp ever since 1999 when I started my first hemp clothing company out of my dorm room in college. So, yes, I've been studying the benefits of hemp and all of its uses. Since then, I picked up a copy of what we call the Hemp Bible, which is The Emperor Who Wears No Clothes by Jack Herrera, who many refer to as the godfather of hemp. And in that book, it really details in depth the history of hemp, not just being used for its medicinal properties, but more so for the industrial purposes, which really gets us excited here at Kifcure, and that's going to be the focus here over the coming years.
I believe that industrial hemp offers a lot more opportunities business-wise than medicinal, marijuana, adult use marijuana. Am I wrong?
No, you're spot on. If you look at the addressable market of what industrial hemp can do for our economy, it really dwarfs what the benefits to the economy of medicinal uses such as THC or CBD. And really where we're at right now with the industrial side is that for the first time ever last year, industrial fiber outpaced cannabinoid hemp in relation to acres grown. I think we'll double that this year in terms of the amount of acres grown. So in comparison to 2019, which was, many farmers got into it to the tune of over 550,000 acres grown in 2019 after the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill. Whereas last year and this year, I think I saw a report out of USDA that says under 4,000 acres of cannabinoid hemp will be grown in the United States, and we're going to probably be somewhere in around the 20,000 acres of industrial fiber.
That's right. That's amazing. When we're talking industrial hemp, maybe you could walk us through what those products could potentially be.
Sure, absolutely. So Kifcure is engaged right now in growing as many acres as we can through our farmer partners. So what we do is we provide the genetics that are proven that we've done the R&D on here, either at our farm here in Maple Park or through some of the other research projects that we do with the Midwest Hemp Database Project, which is composed of U of I, UW-Madison, Michigan State, and Purdue. We participated in that program for the last 5 years and provided a lot of good data on genetics and farming practices and so forth. And the different uses of what we're starting to see come out of these industries, such as, a good example would be BMW. They've been making bioplastic composites for their door panels for years, starting in Europe, and now some of the other car manufacturers here in the United States are following suit. And so that's just one component of it. We have the building materials as a big one. So last year, the International Building Codes accepted hemp as up to 30% of concrete can be used with hemp fiber. So that's a big deal when you consider the making of concrete. The production of concrete is one of the biggest carbon polluters in our world, and you're taking something that is a carbon sequestration plant, which hemp is one of the best carbon sequestration plants known to man.
And what do you mean by that?
So what we do when we plant hemp, or other crops as well, but hemp just happens to be one of the best carbon suckers out of our atmosphere. When you grow it, it's essentially being trapped into that plant. And then when we harvest it and put it in things like wood, concrete, or plastics, then you're essentially storing that carbon that we're sucking out of the atmosphere into those products, which in some cases are harmful for our environment, such as plastics and chopping down trees instead of hemp stalks.
Hemp is a much more sustainable product, isn't it?
It is. Hemp is the definition of sustainable. So not only from the carbon benefits I just mentioned, but also from soil health. So hemp does a great job of remediating bad soil. So what we're finding is a number of our growers here in 2024 are planting their crops on bad land, maybe stuff that is hard to grow or has been contaminated with years and years of pesticides and herbicides and everything else that the traditional row crops such as corn and soybeans require. So if you're looking to really turn around that land and and pull some of those harmful chemicals out of the soil, there's no better plant to do that than hemp. It also has a great taproot, so it will go down about 5 or 6 feet down into the ground and break up some bad soil. Maybe you have some hard clay that's hard to grow on, and it'll actually help break up that soil because of that deep taproot. So that's good for as a good rotation crop. I think we're going to start to see that more and more.
I remember they were discussing a couple weeks ago that it was very drought tolerant because of that big taproot. It was able to find water, even though we didn't have a lot of rain here earlier in the summer.
That's right. Yes. We had about 7 weeks from middle of May till beginning part of July that we had no rain around here. So you saw a lot of these other crops that were non-irrigated land fail or get really poor results, stunted growth.
Yeah.
And whereas these hemp fields just grew. I mean, as long as they had a little bit of a head start in terms of getting that seed germinated, they grew well. And we pulled 4 ton worth of hemp fiber off of these fields. And so yes, it's a very resilient plant.
4 tons an acre.
4 tons per acre. And that's actually, for this variety that we grew, that's actually on the low side.
That ton's like 1,000 pounds, right?
2,000.
2,000 pounds.
Yeah, so 8,000 to 10,000 pounds per acre on the fiber side. And maybe what I do is just explain a little bit about what the differences are in these different varieties that are grown.
Okay.
So many people know growing hemp, they think, okay, they're growing it for CBD or CBG or some of these other cannabinoids, which has been so prevalent over the last several years. Well, very few people understand the differences between industrial fiber and industrial grain hemp versus your CBD or CBG cannabinoid hemp. And the differences are really that when you're growing the different varietals, so it all starts with the genetics. And when you're growing a hemp fiber or a dual crop, like a grain and fiber dual crop, there's specific genetics that we grow to give you those types of plants. And the fiber can be broken out into 2 parts. You have your bast fiber, which most people recognize when they see the fiber as, okay, it's being grown for rope or clothing or paper. Well, that would be your bast fiber, which is the outer stringy part of the stalk.
And those strings are very, very strong.
Very strong. One of the strongest fibers in the world. And then when you get into the inner woody core, we call that the Hurd fiber. So the Hurd is then separated utilizing a process we call decortication. So decortication is simply taking a bale of hemp, running it through these industrial machines which strip away the bast stringy part and strip away that from the woody Hurd part of the stalk. And the Hurd is really used for things like concrete. I talked a little bit about hemp wood, which is we're seeing more and more of that. Bioplastics, which you're essentially micronizing that Hurd and turning it into almost a dust, and then being able to do plastic injection molding and so forth. And another one which is coming on strong is hemp bedding for horses and other types of animals, because it's 4 times more absorbent than your traditional wood shavings that many of these horse barns are using around our area.
And this stuff is all decomposable, right?
Yeah, it's all biodegradable. And when you're we're out talking to many of these horse farms around here, because we're in the heart of horse country here in Maple Park. And one benefit that we're starting to see, not only with the absorbent factor and no ammonia smell, because it's really absorbing that smell into the fiber, but Also the fact that traditional wood shavings, you cannot spread that on a field and use it as fertilizer. With your hemp hurd, you can, and that's a big benefit. So
I also remember too, I think we were both there was a hemp expo down in Nashville last year, and there were people who were making insulation out of the hemp, and they said it was very bug resistant, flammable.
Yes.
Inflammable.
Inflammable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So that is a huge benefit as we're starting to talk to more and more general contractors, the folks putting up homes or commercial buildings here. Hemp insulation, or hemp in general, is pest resistant, mold resistant, flame retardant, does better with sound than traditional insulation. So you're starting to see some very formidable companies pop up in the United States that are growing hemp strictly for insulation purposes and making what looks and looks pretty much just like your fiberglass insulation, that pink stuff, which has a whole bunch of things that are bad with that,
right? As
opposed to way more benefits when it comes to your hemp insulation being made with hemp fiber, basically.
There's another element too of the plant in regards to the flower and the potential seed, because hemp seed's a very common thing that people eat, right?
That's right. Yes. So yeah, now we're getting into what we would call like a dual purpose crop. So growing for not only just the fiber stalk, but also the grain heads that grow on top of the plant. All of these varieties have some level of grain, and that could be anywhere from, let's just say on a low end, 800 pounds to the acre, to all the way up to 1,500 pounds per acre of grain. And the grain is being used, you could go to your local health food store, Whole Foods, and they're going to have right on the same shelves as your flaxseed and your chia seed and all that, you're going to see hemp hearts. And hemp hearts are some of the most nutritious protein sources that humans can consume. It's got high amino acids, omegas, and the list goes on and on. And what we're finding also on the animal side, the animal feed, is that some of these states in the United States have legalized certain types of animals to consume hemp seed, hemp grain. And the benefits and the studies that are coming out of states like Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Montana, they're feeding this hemp grain to, let's just say, the chickens. So if you're a farm that's doing a massive amount of eggs, and you start to feed these chickens the hemp seed, the amount of omegas and benefits and the nutritional value of that egg goes up substantially once you start doing your tests against control.
There's a lot of possibility to this. And it's very bizarre that the United States has not grown hemp for 80 years, except for during the Second World War when it came back briefly because of making rope, right?
That's right.
You're right?
Yep.
So you would think that this would be a hot thing. Yet when the Farm Bill was passed in 2018, a bunch of farmers here in Illinois grew a bunch of cannabis, hemp, and whatnot, and hemp, actually. And they had no place to sell it.
That's right.
That's the problem that you're working on, right?
Yes, that's the problem that we aim to serve. So, to your point, yes, 550,000 acres of mostly cannabinoid hemp grown in the United States, and there was an oversupply and an undersupply of places to take it. You couldn't take it to your local co-op and drop it off, get it weighed, and get a check.
I remember reading a guy down Southern Illinois. He's like, I would have had to driven it all the way up to Springfield. And he said, by then my fuel costs, I would have just lost.
That's right.
I would have lost money, so he ended up doing nothing with it, I believe.
That's unfortunately that's the story. Happened all over the country. So in comparison, now we have an undersupply, and we've got on the cannabinoid side of the fence under 4,000 acres grown here this year in 2023. So there's that issue. On the flip side, we're starting to see more and more attention get paid to the industrial side of hemp. Reason being is that we're growing the amount of production facilities available to intake these bales, essentially what they are. They're bales of hemp that show up on flatbed trucks, and there is that ability to intake that material, get a check, and then it's the same as dropping off a load of beans or corn. And we at Kifcure, this is what we're trying to solve here in the upper Midwest. So we have a new production facility just right down the road here where we will be intaking, and we already have intaken many bales this year, and keeping it under cover and shipping it out when our customers need bales. And so
I'd like to learn more about that. Do you think we could stop here and talk about that in another episode?
Absolutely.
If people wanted to connect with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Sure. You can go to our website, which is kifcure.com, KIFCURE.com. You can give us a call at 855-KIFCURE, or you can also just send me an email at Jarett, Jarett, @kifcure.com.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jarett.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Now, to connect with Jarett and to learn all about Kifcure, you can find links in the show notes at www.cannabisadvocatepodcast.com. Now, I wonder if you could do me a favor. Word of mouth is one of the best ways that grows a podcast. It's one of the best ways to advocate for a podcast. In the case here, advocate for cannabis and hemp. If you could do me a favor and share this episode with another person who's in the industry and looking to scale or grow their business, or maybe they're entrepreneurs who are trying to get into this, please do. Please share this episode with them. That will help this podcast immensely. Now, if you have any questions about hemp, don't hesitate to reach out and connect with me. You can easily find me on LinkedIn, or you could go to the CannabisAdvocatePodcast.com website and click the contact button. With that said, that's all I've got for this week. Until next Thursday, take care. Keep growing.
Thank you for listening. Find us at www.cannabisadvocatepodcast.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.